And we are back with another episode of The Julius Files. I am your host, Jason Julius, and this is an episode of Off the Rails. And, trying to make sure that I got all the pieces flowing correctly, but I almost fell off the rails myself. But I do have a guest with me. I have Trish, the demi-galactic goddess of research.
How about galactic demi-goddess?
Okay, I will probably forever,
I need a name tag.
I screw this up, but I mean, she's Trish, and I think everybody
knows Trish.
Yes, that's, it's that personality. It's you just radiate that positive energy.
It's all fake.
Is it? No, I'm sitting there going, I'm going to be honest, I've known this woman probably 8 years, and I'm thinking that if it was fake, I would have at least detected it.
I would hope so.
Yeah, picked up on it at some point or other. Albeit, I will say, there's generally, I want to say that there's probably generally two types of women. There's a woman, and then there's a woman with a man's brain. And Trish is the latter.
Me.
That's the woman with the man's brain.
Yeah.
That might be why I love her so much. Not that I don't appreciate a woman, but there is a certain appreciation for a woman with a man's brain. Okay, so admittedly, I go out of my way to stay away from the news, to stay away from any topics other than just focusing on what is going on in my world. And I'm sure at some point I will need to pop back into what goes on in the bigger world. But I do rely on Trish to at some point to let me know about the fuckery that is going on.
Fuckery. Here we go.
Okay, so towards that end, we're doing a little bit different version of Off the Rails because she has multiple topics to bring together. So jumping right in, Trish, give us a topic to discuss.
All right. So the first one I'm going to bring to you is pretty serious. This is something that I hold near and dear to my heart just because pro-choice, I feel like a woman's body is a woman's body. She has that choice to do what she needs to do.
Which, and I generally speaking, mm-hmm. I agree with you, but I also very much see the pro-life side of it, mm-hmm. and I see it takes two people to play.
Absolutely.
And so when the woman just simply sits there and takes this is my body, my choice, you're cutting out the other half of the equation, mm-hmm. that technically they do have responsibility in all of this. So it's not as much as we would like it to be just a very simple, my body, my choice.
It's very black. It's not very black and white.
No,
it's a very gray area, especially for a lot of women.
Exactly.
And in a situation like this, there was actually a topic from CNN this morning, and the Supreme Court has now declined to hear fetal personhood case. So basically, two women have came along and they've basically tried to get their rights for their fetuses. So the court's saying either we're going to go one way or we're going to go the other way. And either they're going to ban all of it or they're going to be able to try to hold stipulations.
Yeah, because I want to know what these fetus rights are, but my personal mm-hmm. belief, and I know that this might agitate some people, but it ain't no different than the marijuana issue. Yeah. I do not have a whole lot of confidence in our federal government. So anytime the federal government or the Supreme mm-hmm. Court is going to kick things back to states' rights, yeah. and let the communities inside of each state make their own determination inside their state, I think that is a win. But please, by all means, fetus rights. What are we talking about?
So what they're saying here I'm going to go ahead and Google it so that way I don't cause a war later when people are like, that's not what happened. So
well, and because a lot of that, when they were when the Supreme Court weighed in on this issue, I'm like, but that's not what happened. The Supreme Court really did kick it back to a states' rights issue. So,
well, they're saying here, for fetus rights, every human being shall have the right to life and human dignity. The life of the fetus shall be protected from the moment of conception. The unborn shall be considered as born for all rights accorded with the limits established by the law. So some people are saying, okay, well, if I have this fetus, then there was a lady, I believe she was in Vegas. She was like, I'm going to drive in the carpool lane because there's two of us in the car now.
Oh, wow.
And one lady says, okay, well, if that's the case, then you can go ahead and start paying me child support right now because I'm pregnant. So the Supreme Court's like, wait, that's not what we meant.
Yeah.
So if you're actually going to come through here and you're going to say, this baby is a baby and this is how it is, at what point do you say this baby is a baby? Is it at conception? Because according to this person, I can't carpool with my fetus. So what are we going to do?
Carpooling with your fetus. And this is the fuckery of it, and this is exactly why I avoid this, because it's a level of ridiculousness that I don't think that was ever intended to literally be litigated.
Well, there's always one who wants to push the envelope.
Yeah, I mean,
there's always
that's
that
beyond
one
pushing
person.
the envelope.
Literally.
Because what is a fetus? I mean, at what point do you determine fetus? At what point is that the sperm hits the egg? You are technically, clinically pregnant, but then you actually get to a fetus.
It says here that a fetus is an offspring of a human, obviously, or other mammal in the stages of prenatal development. And it says here it starts around 6 weeks. So if that's the case, which would also lead,
at what point can you determine pregnancy?
I mean, hell, you can actually determine it pretty early these days. Or let's see here. Earliest.
See, I'm talking about research. She's researching right on the spot.
Absolutely. Let's see what we got here. So it says here you can test up to 5 days early, blah, blah, blah. At this point, usually within a couple weeks, it says here within 15 days past ovulation.
Because I'm sitting there going, then you get into the, morning sickness is probably one of the first indicators that you're actually pregnant.
Yeah.
Well, if that's not going to happen for a couple weeks, and then I'm just looking for that realistic.
As early as 8 days after ovulation.
Okay.
So that's when you can figure out if you're pregnant or not. And if that's the case, when are you going to say, okay, this is now my baby? So is it while you're in there? Because according to the Supreme Court, you got to wait a little bit longer, but yet you can't. You got to get an abortion between this time.
And that's where I sat back and go, that what you're talking about, what is it, 9 Supreme Court justices? I mean, this is my stupidity of all of this that I will fully admit, but rather than having 9 people voting and leveling this such a complicated issue, I would much rather see this kick back to states' rights so that everybody is free to make their own determination in all of this, and then every state will make their own determination. What I don't agree with is, I think, what I've seen out of our state by saying if you go into another state to perform what you're looking for, that will prosecute you when you come back as a resident of our state. I mean, that's garbage. I think
it's absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
If you have to move in order to have your rights, for instance, Salesforce. Are you familiar with Salesforce?
Yeah.
Okay, so he actually released a statement saying that they were thinking about pulling out of Indiana because they feel like what our views are here are not what their views are for their business. So they're ready to go ahead and move. And a lot of it weighs on the abortion.
And I get what he's saying, and because you can vote with your dollars, but he's talking about what his views are. That is not the unanimous view of his entire board of directors. That is not the unanimous view of his entire shareholders. That is not the unanimous view of all of his employees, because Salesforce is a worldwide public company. So to make those statements, he's trying to include we in a very much an I statement.
We is now me.
Yeah, exactly. and again, he still runs the company. And more power to you as far as you can do what you want with your company, but don't attach an I statement to a we, because you're too big of a business and you employ too many people to be speaking for those people in general. But in generality, I'm like, where is this headed? So the Supreme Court has just flat said, no, we're not dealing with this.
Yeah, we're not going to deal with this. And again, I feel like you said, it needs to go back to the states. But at what point do you just go back to the state and say, okay, this is bullshit? Not all of us believe this way, but we still want to live here.
Well, and that right there is just you can't get it. I say, because I was thinking about that analogy, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And I'm like, what the f*** is the point of baking a cake if you're not going to be able to eat it?
Right.
But the point is, you have our, I don't even know which one he is, because I don't want to call the dude out by name, because I'm not trying to get political in that manner.
Right.
for somebody in Indiana that has authority to tell somebody as an Indiana resident that if you go to Illinois and have an abortion, that when you come back to Indiana, we're going to prosecute you. That's like telling an Indiana citizen, when you drive your ass to Michigan and you smoke a joint, when you come back to Indiana, we're going to prosecute you. Like, that's a level of ridiculousness that, like, you don't need to be spending our tax dollars for that BS. That's just that's ridiculous.
Absolutely. I agree. Because again, it's the woman's choice going to a different state. Obviously something is going on to where she wants to end this pregnancy.
Exactly.
And she's not doing it in your state, so she's really not bothering you. That's like going and getting a hooker. You can go to Vegas and go get a bunch of hookers, but you can't come here to Indy and get them. But am I going to get in trouble for buying pussy? Like, that's a problem.
Well, and the thing is that you cannot legislate morality. And that is the bigger problem in all of this. And that's where I say, if you have your beliefs, then practice your beliefs. Okay, because you're talking about one issue and potentially from one side of this, that this is killing a child as far as a fetus and terminating the fetus. Well, we still have starving children all across the world. We still have plenty of countries that are doing horrible things to their population, whether it be women and children or men. Hell, I saw a TikTok where Russia was back into drafting people into the military. So I'm sitting there going, when you literally still have countries in this world that are forcing people in the war, full-grown adults, to die for a nation, whether they believe in it or not. I'm like, you cannot legislate morality. And it's just, it so sickens me that our tax dollars are used for that flexing of legislating morality, all in the name of political posturing, when it all comes down to it, because I just don't personally believe most of those politicians give a shit about the topic.
Well, they don't. They give a shit about their money, and they give a shit about their lives.
And their voting base.
And their voting base,
yeah,
absolutely.
The people that are going to get them reelected, and that's what it comes down to.
Just like you said, dollars buy votes.
And the thing is, and I've said this before, I mean, politicians or people that are elected to political office, there was a time where they were elected to political office to do the work of the people, and they did the work of the people, and then they took their ass back to the private sector. And today it is getting in there and accumulating power and selling out to the people that are giving you the money to keep that power. And then who do you got to schmooze and what do you got to say in order to get those votes year in and year out to keep yourself in power? And none of that has anything to do with the actual people's rights. And then you look at 70% of laws are enacted and nobody asked for the laws themselves. Like, it's a level of ridiculousness.
Think about all the laws that have came and went, or all the old laws that we don't really honor anymore, about like how you can't have a horse or how you can't do this or whatever. And they have all these weird shit that we just don't pay attention to.
No, and I was going to go that direction because I'm a big believer that every law that is created should have a sunset.
Yes,
Where we talk about the Constitution, and I'm like, no, I don't believe that it's a living document that should be able to necessarily be changed with the times. When you're talking about creating laws, every law should have a sunset. And I don't even care if that sunset is 20 years from now as a standard practice, but we've got laws on the books that are hundreds of years old.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, and it's like, ridiculous that they should have had a sunset. And if we kept our politician focusing on addressing all of those laws that had a sunset, then they would spend their time reevaluating whether the law applied to the time, rather than dreaming up new laws to put on us that we didn't even ask for.
Like, for instance, in Arkansas, one of their laws is you must pronounce the state correctly. You can't keep your alligator in a bathtub. Getting a raise as a teacher after bobbing your hair, or killing any living creature whatsoever, and do not honk your horn at a sandwich shop after 9 p.m.
And I don't even understand how the legislation or legislators were allowed to put time into those laws being created in the first place.
There's a law in Alaska that you can't get drunk at the bar. You see what I'm saying? So
that's just, and the bad thing is on that end of it, that's subjective. I mean, a 100-pound person is going to become drunk far quicker than a 200-pound person.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. That's
silly laws for silly people.
Again. of it, and you see
real.
why I try
Yeah.
and avoid it and just concentrate on my world and what we're doing to make sure that we're putting food on our table and remaining viable as a business.
Well, I will definitely keep you in the loop of all the. Here's another topic that's going to be great.
Okay, no, that's what I was about to say. Let's move on. Let's go with this one.
So during this last week or so, I don't know if you've heard about it yet. There's a chess player. He got in trouble. He's insisting that he didn't use a sex toy to defeat the world champion.
He didn't.
He did not. So what they're saying is he was able to communicate through like electronic, like the anal beads. And also there's a prostate massaging machine that he's able to like log into. So they're saying that like he used this type of tactics to actually get information to use in the chess.
I mean, don't get me wrong, because my brain is going towards, legitimately Morse code up your ass.
Right.
I mean, that's like, if you're playing chess and you got somebody else that's able to view it, and they're putting a computer model into it.
Well, he was like, I will strip naked just to show, like, I don't have any of these machines on me.
Oh, my Lord.
So, yeah, that was pretty funny.
But that was the actual, what they were accusing him of.
Oh, it was a huge complaint about
it. That vibration was a way to actually send signals to him for his moves.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, the level of cheating, or the level people will go to potentially cheat, because he's claiming like
claiming like I did not cheat at all. He's going back through telling them like I won this legit. He's a teenager, and he's like I don't need all this. Like I beat you fair and square, and they're like, well, you probably had some anal beads in your ass. So.
But we're already past it.
But we're already past that now.
They're just they're drawing conclusions because of course, how could a teenager be intelligent enough to actually? No, I mean, you got kid geniuses. And I've went through that before where I'm like, cool, he's a kid genius. Mm-hmm. I'll take somebody that is not a genius but is just willing to work harder, because generally, I mean, those geniuses label themselves as geniuses and they're not necessarily looking to work too hard because, hey, they're a genius.
Hard,
yeah. But, wow. So we have a kid genius being accused of anal bead communication.
And possibly a prostate massager. And it's funny because today I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how they have been promoting this particular company's sex toys.
Okay.
And they're like, this is the best thing that we could do. You should really get this, blah, 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 blah. Well, then the brand finally caught on that they were actually advertising for them, and they were like, don't. Ooh. Like, we don't want to be affiliated with your group anymore. Like, we're not going to do that.
Really?
So, like, in that situation, how would you handle somebody who was like, you know what? I know, like, for instance, Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. We talk about him a lot on the podcast and things like that. How would you feel if he just came to you and was like, well, don't mention me anymore on the podcast?
Well, and I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, because there was a story. I don't know if it was tied to Elon Musk, but there was some people that, it was about The Rock.
Okay.
The dude was associated with him, and then he started drawing some bad press. Mm-hmm. And The Rock or his representatives were like, let's disassociate. Don't mention me anymore. And then I'm because I bring this back to my own personal story. When I was going through my fast, I got some shit because people saw me buying single-use water bottles. My water fast, it was like, if you know anything about fasting, your senses become very acute. Mm-hmm. So if you are drinking city water or hard water, the further you go through your fast, like you start picking up on those minerals and you start picking up on those tastes. So when I would do my fast, I drank natural spring water. I mean, because it's clean, crisp water. I was getting shit because they saw me buying cases of bottled water. Well, there's an in particular shirt manufacturer that what they do, their whole process is recycled polyester, or they find the old water bottles and plastic and then actually recycle them to make their apparel. So in one of my TikToks, I made a point of saying, and I had their apparel on me, that I really appreciated their product, that I recycled my bottles of water, and I mentioned their name as a product. Yeah. Well, then, I don't know, a couple weeks later, all of a sudden the audio was cut out of my actual TikTok. And they did not contact me directly, but I took that as it does not matter Like they don't want that affiliation. And I'm sitting here going, being respectful, like you do you and you mention you. And if you start mentioning other people and they reach out and be like, hey, don't be mentioning me, I don't want that affiliation. I completely get it. Because when I got into business, when you get into business and everybody will come out of the woodwork looking for collaboration, looking for affiliation. And in the initial years, I was willing because I didn't know any better. And notice that I say, because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Because when you affiliate and when you collaborate, you are making yourself liable in the public view for potentially associating yourself with somebody else. That ain't no different than just person to person guilt by association. So if you've got somebody that you're affiliated with or associated with and they decide that they don't want that association, no point getting butthurt about it. Just simply say, okay, and move on with your life, and you do you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
You find somebody else who wants to play in your sandbox.
Absolutely. Exactly. You find somebody else that wants to play in your sandbox.
Yep.
And if nobody else wants to play in your sandbox, then you continue doing you, and you'll find your tribe. I mean, we're talking about 7 billion people in the world. I promise there are some similarities that even if you don't find somebody that actively wants to play in your sandbox, that don't mean that your that your message isn't going to resonate with some people. It just means that maybe you got to try it from a different angle or work with a different group of people until eventually. But I'm sitting there going,
look at Andrew Tate.
Yeah, and I'll go like, so because I brought him up and like I said, smart dude. Like but I understand I record a podcast, long form content.
Yeah.
Well, when you're going to go on TikTok, you are trying to catch their attention. You have 2 to 3 seconds to catch their attention. You've got a message that you're trying to get across. It's going to resonate with some people. It's going to rub some people the wrong way. So when he does long form content and you actually hear everything that he has to say, like the dude is a very intelligent, very rational, very driven individual. And virtually everything he says, like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But you'll see the short form version in TikTok, and since you don't have the context around the overall message, you'll want to read all the bad into it. Well, he did a 4.5-hour podcast with Patrick Bet-David, and he had a chance to actually like bring up the argument and talk about the full context and give the specific events where they called him out for being misogynistic, for being prejudiced of one form or other. And bit by bit, when they talked about this is what they were talking about. Look at the long form content. This is what I was actually saying. And I'm sitting there at this point, everything that I've seen out of Andrew Tate, I got a lot of respect for the guy. Do I agree with everything he says? No, I don't have to agree with everything he says.
But again, that goes back to saying everything is about perspective.
Well, it is, but the thing, this is what kills me, where I do, and it'll come out, that podcast about, everybody lies, everybody leaves.
Yeah.
Every 2 to 4 years, people are willing to go to the hilt, like literally, emotionally. I'm looking for the. Excuse me. Not literally. Every 2 to 4 years, people are willing to metaphorically die on their sword to get you to vote for an individual.
Yes.
And we all know politicians are professional liars.
Yeah.
If you're willing to die on your sword for somebody to vote for somebody that you know is a professional liar, like, you cannot sit here and say, I have to agree with everything this individual says in order for his message or for him to be accepted in society. Like, it doesn't play like that. That's where you get that you can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot play both sides of that fence. If you're going to go to the hilt to defend and get people to vote for somebody that you know is a natural born liar,
right,
then you cannot sit here and beat somebody to the pulp on the other end of it that literally is a decent person and can defend their thoughts and their comments and their beliefs. But Andrew Tate, in my book, is a decent person. And the reason I say he's a decent person, because he can clearly articulate his thoughts, and the vast majority of his thoughts are very clear, rational thoughts. He's not trying to do harm to anybody else. The thought that somebody, like, if you got deeper into it, when they canceled him, look, Trish, they literally, like, they canceled his Uber account.
Why?
They canceled his credit card processors. They tried to block his bank accounts. Like,
so basically, they went after him.
They went after him, trying to cancel everything, all off of some TikTok clips, not taking in full context into the long form of what the guy was actually saying. Like,
that's awful.
No, and that's what I'm like. I can see how a public figure in general, like, you're going to go after Trump, you're going to go after Biden, like they're putting themselves in front of political office. This dude masterfully became the most popular, most searched individual in a 30-day period, but yet as a private citizen, as an entrepreneur, and they were willing to go that hard at him that they were literally trying to, like, not just deplatform him, like literally shut off all his resources. Like,
just because it was his opinion on things.
And dude wasn't an American, he's not an American citizen. Mm-hmm. I'm like, so if you can go after somebody that hard, that should really send a big message as to what they're willing to do to anybody that they don't care for their message. And they're so shallow that they will point at a 30 to 60 second message, never minding the context that it took 15 to 20 minutes for the entire thought to play out. Okay. Let's move on. Do you have any other stories that we might need to discuss today?
Those were the two that I had on my radar for today, definitely. And then I was looking in here to see what old Donald Trump's been up to, because I know that he's usually a conversation topic as well. That guy. So let me see what we got here, if there's anything else that we should actually discuss today.
Because I will say on that topic, and take it for what you will. I don't, because like I said, Donald Trump's a disruptor, and I have such disdain for what they do with our tax dollars that, I mean, I supported his disruption, and now that he's out and I see the next level of that's going on, I still support the guy's disruption. But the email campaigns got a bit much, and I unsubscribed to the email campaigns because I just got sick of the politics. I wouldn't take them from anybody, but Google prompted me, because I had not opened any of the email campaigns, to say, do you want to unsubscribe? And I happily hit yes,
like,
I would
finally.
unsubscribe just because I don't open them. I don't want to read the propaganda itself. It has become a nuisance, and my life is better for not listening to the news the last 2 years.
And that's probably a good thing too, because a lot of it is just it's the propaganda bill that we have discussed earlier on the previous podcasts. You know, it's whatever we can do to get you in an uproar.
Yes. Mass
media scare.
But you hit it right, because if there's one thing that I've actually learned in the last couple years, it's that the vast amount of media, the clickbait is it's all fear. Like they have found that fear prompts action quicker than everything else. Now that sucks, because the most strong emotion is love, but nobody seems to want. While they're busy, I read this thing where I'm in a book when he was talking about how the pendulum swings, and that we are clear over here swinging to the we, and then you've got the middle ground, and then you've got the pendulum swinging over to just the I. And it's saying that right now we are in the we. But it kills me that the message trying to be shaped is the we, but at the same time the message is hate.
Yeah.
Like, I thought we would be more associated with love, but apparently love doesn't create clicks, and the media has no desire to promote
and that's a lot of it. They're not promoting that. They're promoting fears. And scarcity and things like that. And that's just so you can get your attention. And then they move into something else.
Well, and the bad thing is on that, and when we're talking about mindset in life, I mean, I'm like, how do you progress in life? A mindset of abundance, a mindset of gratitude, a mindset of love. And that is not what MSM is preaching. That is not what is out there right now. No. It is fear. It is hate. And scarcity, and that's like nothing good will come from that.
No.
In our civilization and our country, in this world, they are definitely going down the wrong rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wow. Well, I will
Here we are.
take that for what it is. I mean, well, we will wrap up this episode. I don't know if we learned anything here, but hopefully
I
something.
feel like we all learned. We just got a reminder that the world's full of.
And it really is, and don't take it too seriously.
Yeah.
And then you get back to the only. Don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Absolutely.
Words to live by. All right. Until next time, you guys have a good night.